Okay, hi. So I'm just going to do a short video giving you a little bit of guidance, talking through the health equity on the front lines writing assignment. So basically, this is the biggest assignment that you're going to write for this class. So I just wanted to, talk a bit about it. So it's worth 30% of your mark. It's going to be due the week of November 17th, so the Friday of that week. So basically, we've been going through just how complex access to health on the front lines actually is. So this assignment is really kind of the way I imagine it is that it's sort of the cumulative end product of doing this thinking together through the course. So basically, we at this point, hopefully have some kind of understanding that health isn't accessible for many different complex reasons. There's not one reason. It's not wait times, right? It's so complex and it looks different based on your social position, which is something we've really been trying to think through. So basically, our systems, which include our health system, are designed with one body, one mind, one user when being designed, right? So it's not designed for all bodies. It's not designed for all the different complexities that we live as humans. The built environment is built for a specific user. The sort of values around where we allocate resources, history, ways that we've built our system all come from very ingrained values around who is using the system, who it's serving. So basically, this assignment is asking you to dive into sort of three things using a particular health equity issue. So basically, you're going to choose a health equity issue. You're going to use the lens of intersectionality. So we're going to actually use the tool that we learned about, right? So actually use it to come to bear on an issue. And then past understanding what the health equity issue is, I think we also at the same time need to think about how we intervene on that issue and create a sort of a solution or an intervention that would work towards health equity for the folks experiencing that health inequity, that issue. So the first one is that you're going to identify this health inequity sort of problem or issue in Canada today. And if you're not in Canada, just get in touch with me and we'll talk about what this could look like for you. But for those of you who are physically here in Canada or have been in Canada, maybe just went back to your home country, we're going to take up the context of Canada. So basically, you're going to say, okay, here's this barrier, here's this gap to access in health. This is what it looks like. This is what the research says about the specific problem. And it doesn't have to be, a specific something to do exactly with what we would imagine as, kind of front lines healthcare in a hospital, in a doctor's office, a health issue. It can be a lot broader. So you can look at the ways we've been imagining these front lines. So something around housing, it could be something around sort of mental health access and support, access to education, defunding the police, all of those things that we know are what build people's ability to access good health or not. You could look at an issue that kind of takes up COVID or not. So it's really kind of broad and open. And I really encourage you, when you're starting to think of this problem, or, I'm thinking of looking at this, just email your TA or email me and just say, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And we'll just give you some quick feedback and then you can start. So as the wheels are turning, just shoot out an email quick, and just, especially in these remote times, you don't want to start far down a road and then realize, oh God, where am I? Or maybe this isn't right. Or I don't know if there's enough research in this area. Or maybe there's too much research and I can't narrow it down. So at this beginning stage, just send us a quick email. What does this look like? Does it look okay? And we can respond. The second piece is going to be to use that tool of intersectionality to then identify what this health equity issue looks like for a specific subpopulation living at specific intersections. So obviously, access to housing looks very different if you looked at it at the intersection, say, of gender and disability. That's going to be a radically different issue if you look at those intersections. There's no problem of housing in a big, huge sense. We can pull that apart using intersectionality to understand how this issue of housing is impacting people in different ways, which of course then necessitates different responses, different ways of building change. So you're going to look at a particular subgroup of people living at these particular intersections. This could come from your own lived experience. This could come from something that you see in your own community. It could come from something that we've been talking about in this course, something you've been talking about in another course, something you've been following on social media. So again, when you're thinking through this health equity problem, and then you're going to apply intersectionality, at this point, say, is this okay? What does this look like? Is this too broad? Is this too narrow? Am I down the right path? So just send that quick email out to your TA once you're kind of at the point of narrowing 1 and 2 down to what you're going to write on. So basically you're going to outline. So now, you know, when we're thinking about writing this assignment, you're going to outline what the problem is. So what is the problem as you see it? How is this particular group not accessing that particular service, a program, resource? What's the issue here? Why is this particular group not accessing the specific thing that they need to keep healthy or well? So you're going to use academic literature, and we're going to go through this with the librarian on Tuesday, just about accessing different kinds of literature. So you're going to access the academic literature, which is like journal articles, so peer-reviewed journal articles. It could be chapters from books, and also the kind of stuff that we've been also going through in this course, which are reports from, you know, think tanks or health institutes, gray literature, so community groups writing reports, like the stuff from the community health clinics we've been taking up in lecture, advocates, activists. We did a lot this week for the Disability Justice Week. I threw a lot of different things at you in terms of podcasts, kind of blog posts from those in the disability community asking for something different. So alternative policy groups, I talked about that at the beginning of the course. Users themselves, so folks coming from that positionality. So if you're looking at women with disabilities, say accessing housing, you want to have that voice central, right? That voice of women themselves with disabilities trying to access that area of society, that needs to be centered, right? That's what intersectionality tells us. So some questions that can kind of guide your thinking, guide your questions, guide what research you're going to access to build this assignment, is who is the service or program or resource serving? So kind of who is it built for, right? So we know that housing isn't built with universal design in mind, right? It's really difficult for folks with mobility disabilities to access housing because housing is not built for everyone's body. So it's really difficult to find housing that is safe, housing that is affordable, and housing that is accessible. All of those things together, which women with disabilities, this specific intersection, are living, is very, very challenging. So thinking about who is sort of in mind when we think about who this kind of issue with this service you're taking up, well, who is that service actually designed for? Can you think through that? Whose body or mind does it value? Who is celebrated? Who's being left out? What are folks living at these intersections saying about what needs to change? So again, whose voice are you going to have central in your assignment? So the third piece, so you can kind of think about as you're building this assignment, where you're going to put weight on all of these, how much time you need to spend in each area. It might look different in all of your assignments. So again, this is where communication with your TA will be important, asking them for kind of guidance around that, because it's really going to be specific to your what you're writing about, because you're all going to be writing about different things, which is exciting for us to read and mark. So then the third piece is you're going to take that reading, and we've gone through it already in lecture, and I hyperlinked it here. So it's that targeted and universal approaches to health. So this idea that there's sort of different ways at getting at building health equity in sort of large state systems, and what would work here. So this idea that you're going to come up with a kind of innovative approach that you're going to identify where does that sit. Is it a targeted approach? Is it a universal one? Or is it targeted universal? So how would you design this intervention? You're going to design the intervention from one of these approaches and explain what the intervention is, what gap or barrier it intervenes in, and how and why it's needed. So of course, you're going to build this intervention with input from your research, right? So you're going to say, you know, women with disabilities groups are saying this is what's needed. I agree, and I think it should be tailored as a, you know, targeted approach in this area, because I think that's what would work best, because targeted approach tells us that the pros and cons are this, and this is what I think would be the most effective. It would, you know, say target those most vulnerable at those intersections, or it would, you know, you're going to explain why you're using it, but you're not necessarily, you know, you might come up with an innovative one, but it's also going to be guided by folks at that intersection. So if you're writing from your social position, you know, then you are able to put your voice very strongly in there and say, I live at these intersections and this is what's needed. But if you're not writing from the specific intersections that you live from, then you should really have that literature guiding you. Because that's what intersectionality tells us, right? So just some notes, critical perspective. So that's what we've been really trying to build throughout this course, is to say, you know, I could have built this course saying the number one thing we're going to talk about is wait times, but that's not what we're doing, right? We're really taking a critical approach and really trying to build that. So that's the way that you're approaching all sort of topics when you're looking at them throughout your courses. So don't just describe the issue. You're going to kind of examine these reasons behind it. Why does this health inequity problem persist? Center the voices of those who are impacted. Reference lists. So you're going to you need to use 4 to 5 academic references. So that's the kind of stuff that the librarian's going to take up tomorrow in tutorial, but they have to be peer-reviewed academic references. And then you're going to bring in all that other gray stuff. So all of the, you know, if you're bringing in blog posts, TED Talks that you found, community groups writing statements, reports coming out of community groups, all those kinds of things are going to be, you need to use them, and that's on top of the 4 to 5 academic references. So make sure that you've got some peer-reviewed stuff in there, you know, that's maybe showing some data on how big the problem is, where the problem is, what that looks like, and then you're going to build all around that. Reference, so your paper will be an APA style. The reference list doesn't count in your page count. So your assignment's going to be approximately 4 double-spaced pages in length. Try to stay under 5 pages. So just, that's kind of your maximum. So think about 4 to 5 pages. Any less, and you know, we could take off marks because you don't have enough kind of in there. So make sure you're staying around 4 to 5 pages. So you'll submit, the week of November 17th, so that Friday. It's worth 30%, and late submissions will receive 5% late per day. So just make sure that you're in communication early. If you need an extension, that's fine. Just email us and ask us. So yeah, that's your, oh, sorry, there were some names there. That's all you could see was names. Because no one submitted yet. So basically, that's the assignment. I urge you to just, you know, early on, shoot us an email and say, here's the problem. This is what the intersections of the population I'm going to look at. Even maybe thinking through some, you know, if you're already at the point of thinking through of what intervention you want to look at, but at least those first 2 points, just send us an email and we can kind of give some quick feedback on it, so you don't get too far down your research process and then realize it's getting too unwieldy. It's a short assignment, right? It's not long. So the real work here is really thinking through what you want to bring to bear in this assignment. So again, I want you to really think about this, the health inequity piece, just really broadly, right? Think about carding as a health inequity problem. Think about defunding the police as a health inequity problem. You know, all those kind of big issues that we've been taking up. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Send me any questions. If you want to make a time to meet on Zoom, that's fine as well. And have a good rest of your day. Thanks.